Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Charlene Burke. I'm the president of the Wilside Community Alliance, and we have been putting together forums regarding the candidates that are running in this November's election. Tonight is our last one with the candidates for mayor, of which we have 3 that have actually confirmed to us, and they're here tonight. And it is Wilside Ali, Christine Friedman, and Bill O'Dell. Firstly, I would like to recognize all of those behind the scenes that actually made this happen. So firstly, I would like to recognize Kayla Burrell from Lincoln Park North Neighborhood Association. I would like to recognize Sharon McCormick from the McGinley Square Community Board and Jonathan Pauly from the E.D. Mallory Neighborhood Association, and they've been very instrumental in doing a lot of the background work that it takes to put these together. So I'd like to also thank Hudson County always, the Parks Department, for their providing the space that we hold these meetings, as well as our community meetings in general. And I'd especially like to thank tonight, we have 2 moderators, Esther Whitner and Bridget D'Souza. Esther Whitner, known for her involvement in local civic affairs and government accountability initiatives, and previous affiliation with Civic JC, a nonprofit promoting transparency and good governance in Jersey City, and a longtime resident of Ward B. Bridget D'Souza is a licensed CPA, MBA, and former full-time college professor who's now self-employed with her own firm, creator of civicparent.org, which is educating residents about the budget process and property taxes. So please give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Okay, and now what I'd like to do is just lay out what the ground rules are for this evening. So candidates, we have 90 seconds for introductions and 60 seconds for the closing. The time allowed for each question will be given at the beginning of the question by our moderators. So they may be as long as 90 seconds, and they could be as quick as a yes or no. We have a timekeeper at the front row, Kayla, and she has signs that tell you 30 seconds and time is up. Rebuttals and follow-ups will be decided by each of the moderators. So good luck. Thank you for being here, all of you, and we really hope to be enlightened this evening. So why don't we start on the left?
Sure.
With you. Oh, with the intro.
Yes.
Oh, no. That's all my love.
Good evening. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to this evening. I would like to send a message to Jim McGreevy and James Solomon. If this is being taped, if you have if you're watching, or if you have any of your people here, I'd like to send a message that I extend the invitation for you to have a discussion or debate with me and with Bridget, because the community would like to hear from you. We'd like to hear you answer our questions. You know how to contact us, so please let us know when you would be available. We can do it online for all of Jersey City to see. Thank you. And to the candidates, I just want to say, if there, at any point you would like us to repeat a question, do not hesitate to ask us. Okay, thank you. We'll start with Musab, 90 seconds.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I know it's a little chilly outside. I was just canvassing this neighborhood. My hands got a little cold, so I appreciate you guys taking the time to come over here in person. My name is Musab Ali. I'm running to be the next mayor of Jersey City. I grew up in Jersey City. I went to public schools here. I went to PS6 in the Heights. Then I went to middle school in Greenville next to Snyder High School at Academy One. And I went to McNair Academic for high school. When I was 20 years old, I was elected in Jersey City as the youngest person in city history to serve on the school board. By the time I was 23, I was elected during a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic as the board president, where I increased minimum wage for teachers, canceled student lunch debt, and passed the first fully funded budget in over a decade. When I was 23, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And, today I sit here 4 years cancer-free. But that moment taught me that my purpose here in life was public service. And so I'm running a campaign that's focused on serving the people of Jersey City. That's why we're the only campaign that does not take money from city contractors or city vendors. We're a campaign that's focused on building more housing, especially more affordable housing. And we're also a campaign that's focused on building more public transportation. And so we have an idea to build a fast and free city-run bus system that at some point I hope we can elaborate on. But thank you all for being here, and have a wonderful evening.
Good evening, everyone. Hey, this mic is loud. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Christina Freeman. I'm a lifelong resident of Jersey City. I'm a mom, a student studying sociology at NJCU, and a police officer with service of 6 years. I walked these streets and responded to calls and felt the struggle, not just in my work level, but also here as a resident within Jersey City. I am a public servant and I am committed to the people, not the politics. My priorities are clear: to make housing affordable and to keep families and lifelong residents within Jersey City, to invest in our youth because the youth are our future, and to strengthen the public safety by bringing the community to the table through neighborhood safety boards and working directly with the police and fire department. I'm running for mayor because it's time for leadership with heart for the people and the leadership that stands up for Jersey City. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm County Commissioner Bill O'Day. I've lived in this neighborhood for the past 53 years. In fact, Lincoln Park, I call my backyard because I'm able to walk from here 4 blocks. There's been days when no one was here to open the door for the yoga class that we got started on a Saturday, and I got a key to that door, so I've been here to make sure that it was open. So that's how important this park and this neighborhood is to me. I'm a lifelong resident of Jersey City. I love this city. I just wanted to make a quick point. I don't think it would be fair to interview either Mr. McGreevy or Mr. Solomon outside of a real debate forum. I think that's disrespectful to those of us who attended here today. I just left a rally with over 300 people at it to be here today because I felt that that's how important this is. I grew up on Fairview Avenue. I moved there when I was 13 years old. I've moved to Mallory, and I finally broke down and bought a house on Williams. I love Jersey City. I was elected in this park, the only person ever elected actually in this park by a single vote of the county committee people. As your mayor, I'll fight for you each and every day because of the experiences that I've had in public service. 35 years of elected office, and I'm very proud of it. Never sold out one vote in 35 years. Haven't taken a raise since 2009. Things that I have the paperwork to prove, despite what others might say. But some of the tragedies in my life have helped inspire me what I do. When I lived on Fairview, I lost my mom to a fire. She died in a fire in 1989. And that's why I was so proud yesterday to get the endorsement of the firefighters. Thank you very much.
Good evening. You will have 60 seconds to answer this first question, which deals with economic development. Which neighborhood or neighborhoods in Jersey City do you believe need the most urgent infrastructure investments and why?
I would say the Greenville section, although I live currently in the west side part of town. Greenville has been neglected since I was born. I'm 37 years old and I have yet to see any new changes outside of a few new buildings and maybe some new paint on the sidewalk and some nice artwork. It hasn't been there they need it the most. In terms of some of my ideas for the rest of the city, you know, I'm willing to collaborate with the members of the community, to see what it is that they would like to see in the community. I'm strongly about having the community collaborate with the government in terms of what's needed for their particular area. Thank you.
I think the south side of Jersey City needs the most infrastructure. The Bayfront project on 440 points out the problems and needs that we need on Route 440. We need a flyover. We need a place to cross over, pedestrian by the Hudson Mall. I think those are two critical ones. Obviously, other infrastructure, water systems, sewer systems, all need to be upgraded based on the increasing volume that we're going to have here. But as I think with every issue tonight, I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what we've done. And I'm proud of Lincoln Park. I'm proud of all the infrastructure investments we make in this park. When this park needs an infrastructure investment, whether it's Charlene or Jody or Esther or others come to us and we find a way to get it started, whether it's to redo the gazebo, upgrade the fountain, put additional fields and work on the infrastructure and the sewers here. We get it done, and as mayor, we'll make sure that the whole city, but especially the south side of Jersey City, gets the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, I want to echo the comments of my fellow panelists here. I think the South Side needs a lot of help. But I think it's important to understand, you know, who Jersey City really is. When it comes to statistics, only 17% of people who live in Jersey City work in Jersey City. And when you talk to a lot of people in the South Side, they talk about the reality that it is too difficult for them to actually get to the job centers in Jersey City. And so they'd rather go somewhere else. But the jobs exist here. There's 101,000 people that leave Jersey City for work, but there's 99,000 people that come to Jersey City for work. So the jobs exist here. We need to make sure that there's local preference for hiring, that these people can get those jobs. But also in terms of infrastructure, right? Making sure that we have, you know, reliable public transportation for people to get there. Making sure that our schools have pipelines to all the different businesses that are here. You know, places like JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, DTC, Veris. These are all companies that should be providing more to the people of Jersey City.
Sorry.
Thank you. The next question has to do with affordability. You will have 60 seconds to answer this question. Affordability is not limited to housing. Many residents struggle with expenses like internet, cable, and car insurance. These costs are particularly burdensome for working families and seniors. If elected mayor, what concrete steps would you take to try to reduce these essential costs for residents? And how would you work with service providers, state regulators, or explore programs to make internet, cable, and auto insurance more affordable?
So I think in each of those issues, we obviously have to deal with state. There's rules, there's regulations, there's the Public Utility Authority. I know that Mikey Shovels come out to say when it comes to utility rates, she's going to declare a state of emergency on day one. I certainly support that. I would hope whoever's elected governor does that, because we certainly have seen an insane rise in utility rates. No one should be denied internet access. You know, there were programs that were created during COVID to assist people to have that. So we would make sure that those things occur. But beyond affordable housing, affordable budgets are important. And controlling the budget in the city is critical to being able to people to be able to afford to live here. So as I've said, day one, I cut my salary 20% to set an example. And I put together a blue ribbon panel, a budget panel, which a couple people in this room might be on, to really look at the budget, and there will be no sacred cows. We have to cut dollars. We have to get rid of waste. We have to work together, but we got to work with the state as it relates to the regulations for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think internet access is so important. During the pandemic, we actually worked with AT&T and T-Mobile to get mobile hotspots all across the city of Jersey City so that students would actually have the ability to have internet. But I want to tell a second part of that story, which is that, you know, Jersey City, we were fighting to get laptops for all of our kids. And it took us 8 months to get those laptops. Meanwhile, schools like Milburn, almost overnight, every single child had a laptop. And I say that because so often, the people that are neglected and left behind come from communities of color. And I think there's a reality that there's a big disparity that exists in the state of New Jersey. The average white family in New Jersey's median wealth is over $600,000. The median black family in New Jersey's wealth is under $20,000. There are key regulations that we need to put into place to make sure that the city and the state are more equitable. That is the reality of our system, and we need to make sure we actually addressing these problems and look into think tanks like New Jersey Institute of Social Justice to address these numbers and look at their recommendations. Thank you.
I have this idea that's called City Perks, and it's more of a civic engagement idea to where the people in the community get engaged with volunteer work, just doing various things throughout the city, going to different meetings within the city. And in that, you're able to collect points. And with this point system, you can use them to redeem them with local businesses and other partners in which we have within the city, to where you can use those towards lowering your bill or to even cover your bill expenses. So that's one idea that I have in terms of making sure that we have affordability in terms of utility and internet access as well. Thank you.
You will have 60 seconds to answer this next question, which deals with education. So as a mayor, you would have no direct authority over the local schools, which is a separate local government entity. That said, a mayor does have a very, very large public pulpit, both in the local community, throughout the county, throughout the state, to advocate on behalf of the community, including for the schools. Can you please share the top 3 ways that you would advocate on behalf of the public schools if elected mayor?
This is a fantastic question. When I was on the school board, we literally had the mayor of Jersey City throw us under the bus. When S2 legislation was passed and the schools were being deprived of funding, instead of the mayor standing up to the governor and demanding that we fight for the children of Jersey City, he sent letters to all of you at your homes that said the reason your taxes are going up is because of the school board. And that's not true. What happened was over the last 7 years, the governor of New Jersey has cut $250 million from the children of Jersey City. And it's inversely proportional to the amount of wealth that's being created in some of these new buildings. Now, to make matters worse, the new buildings that are being created all have tax abatements. That means they provide almost no funding to the schools. The number one thing that we need to do is work directly with our Board of Education to advocate against the state to get more school funding. Then we need to make sure that any new buildings that are being built have to give money towards our school district. And the third thing we should even consider is renegotiating some of these 30-year tax abatements that are already in place to make sure some of that funding actually goes towards Jersey City public school students.
I would say more collaboration opposed to separation. Our schools is the learning ground for our young people, so I would have the organizations within the community to go into the schools and assist in areas that the school is struggling in. And then I will also support the teachers within the school and making sure that they have the supplies that's needed to just be able to do the job. And lastly, I would see if we can get the doors of the schools to open a little bit later so that our young people can be able to stay after school and have a safe space to be and bring in people from the community to mentor and also to help them out with homework.
So the first thing is to sue the state and get our state legislators to not adopt any budget that doesn't bring back equity to the formula. City of Patterson, $583 million in state aid. City of Jersey City, $148 million in state aid. There's something wrong with that picture. It's $250 million a year. With $250 million a year, we can improve our education system, but we can also stabilize our taxes. So that's number one. And the day I announced in this park, that partnership between the city and the Board of Ed is the only way that gets done. Finger pointing, fighting, blaming each other has accomplished zero. If anything, it just set us back. So that's number one, number two, and number three. But you asked for two more. Secondly, use the pulpit to bring other sources here. Corporation sources, philanthropic sources. Just recently, I worked with a foundation to bring a $20,000 grant to PS7. and I bring another $20,000 grant to PS 38 to bring music programs, after-school music programs and instruments for the children that are there. Only got to get to it, so.
This next question, you will have 60 seconds to respond to. It has to do with public safety, and I'll ask a couple of questions about public safety. The Jersey City Police Department takes up the largest share of our city's budget, at 30%. Yet residents are questioning whether we're getting results for that investment. CompStat crime data has disappeared from the city website for months without explanation. Police visibility in neighborhoods has noticeably dropped, and the department's leadership ranks have grown top-heavy with more deputy chiefs, while street-level coverage is seemingly declining. As mayor, would you commit to a full independent audit of the police department in your first 6 months of being elected, both operationally and financially, to determine if resources are being used effectively? And if that audit showed inefficiencies, would you be willing to make leadership or structural changes within the department, even if that meant taking on the police union or political allies?
Yes. Is it yes or no question?
You
Oh,
can,
I'm sorry, I got the rest of my time. So being that I am a police officer, I'm sorry, I thought it was a yes or no. It starts with leadership. And yes, we do understand that a large sum of the budget, 30% is going to the police department. However, you do have to understand that you need a police department, and you need one that's effective and that's efficient. We are lacking in the patrol unit, and I would agree that we need more officers in that space. And I would be more than happy to audit the police department just to see what's working and what's not working, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to evolve so that we can be able to provide the best services for the people within the community.
So the answer is yes, absolutely. The last time I believe such an audit was done was when I was a city councilman. So that's how long it's been. Things that I think need to be improved. Yes, CompStat, there was a time it worked. Not sure why they got rid of it. I can speculate. 911 system, we need to put dollars in it. We need to hire more people there. We need to train them better. The current director, should be gone on, will be gone on January 1, has failed to do that because he wanted to privatize it. We need to eliminate fixed posts. You ever see a car parked on a corner for 8 hours? Makes no sense. They do nothing. They just sit there for 8 hours. Over response. Sometimes 4 vehicles respond to a simple automobile accident. That makes absolutely no sense. We need to get those vehicles back out, doing patrol, responding to calls. And then we need to get the state to let us bring back red light cameras and also speed cameras by our schools. Because we had them here in this neighborhood once, if you remember. And when we had them, I had additional patrols because they were on the county road.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Commissioner Day said. So yes, we want to do an audit. Yes, the director needs to be fired on day one. I think the biggest thing we need to change is the culture of our police department. I think right now there are way too many officers who think it's okay to just sit in your car and to not respond to crimes. I mean, I've talked to people on the street all day who tell me, they call a police officer, they say, hey, someone is harassing me. And they'll say, oh, is that person still there? Right? They have people who call 911 and no one shows up for hours. That is not acceptable. You need a police department that makes you feel safe. And beyond that, we need to make sure that there is real community policing, right? That people are walking the street. But that starts from the top. And I don't mean the director, I mean the mayor. If the mayor of Jersey City is not walking around in certain neighborhoods, how do you expect police officers to be doing the same thing? To me, it's important that we lead by example, that every single street in Jersey City, we walk and we show people, hey, this is a part of our city. We feel united and I feel safe being here. So our public servants also feel that they can walk around these neighborhoods and patrol them and feel safe.
You will have up to 90 seconds if you needed to answer this next question. It's a bit of a longer frame, just to explain a little bit of the context around the question. The 2025 municipal budget included an $85 million structural budget imbalance related to expiring pilot fees. This budgetary imbalance meaning when pilot fees expire and lower total income collected by the city, can have the impact of requiring city tax hikes to fund the existing city services, effectively to make up for that loss of pilot revenue. And this may require cutting services, or hiking the tax. So as mayor, how would you address this structural budget imbalance as pilot revenues are declining? And specifically, how would you maintain fiscal stability without overburdening homeowners or reducing essential city services?
So it's kind of ironic that as we get less pilot revenue and those become fully taxed, that we're creating a deficit. That's scary in and of itself. My position has been, you can't solve it in 1 year. You gotta set out a 4-year budget. You gotta put together a budget committee, a blue round committee that has residents, but also experts. And you gotta open up the books to them. And you've gotta do revenue increases, and you've also gotta cut waste in government. And it's not easy to do, and it takes time. In 2022, I went to a city council meeting for another reason, and they had a budget hearing. And I got up and asked some questions. I asked, how much down was the revenue for parking, because it was still COVID? How much was the hotel taxes down? And how much in land sales were being done to fix the hole? They continue to fix those holes with one-time revenues. That's a horrible, horrible budget practice. Now, McGreevy's not here tonight, but when he was governor, he did a $2.7 billion illegal bond to pay for operating expenses of the state. It was ruled illegal by the Supreme Court. So you'll have my commitment, I won't do that. You make tough decisions, do 4 years of budgeting, but let's be honest, if we get the state of New Jersey to correct what's wrong in the school funding formula, we will be able to stabilize taxes in the city of Jersey City.
Yeah, for those of you guys that don't understand why pilot revenue going down, pilot revenue expiring means that city revenue goes down, I encourage you to check out Bridget's website. She does a great sort of explainer of like tax abatements and why a tax abatement is actually great for the city up front, screws over the schools, but in the long run, kind of screws over all of us, right? Look, when it comes to our budget, we need to make sure that we are not using one-time revenues. And we also need to make sure that we are looking at other sources for revenue for the city. One great example is traffic safety, right? If we can actually enforce traffic safety, if we can enforce parking regulations on out-of-state plates, that is money that the city can generate. I just heard recently that, our law department has been cut in half, and the person who's been running the film grants has also been fired. The film taxes are things that city can now use. I mean, New Jersey now, tons of movies are being shot right here in Jersey City. We need to take in that revenue. We need to look at every single way that we can find money within the city, and we need to grab onto it. But the second thing for our campaign is we do not take money from city contractors or city vendors. That means the trash collector that's donating to Jim McGreevy doesn't donate to us. The insurance brokers who's donated to James Solomon doesn't donate to us. So that means that we can actually cut costs across the board, that the corruption tax that we pay within our budget, that extra bit of revenue that all of us are paying that lines politician pockets, does not touch our campaign. That means there are no sacred cows when it comes to what we cut, and we can look at every single contract and say, look, we have no ties with these people here, and we can eliminate them if they're inefficient.
In terms of the budget, day one, we would do a full audit to see where the money is going and recoup whatever we can reallocate to the margin, the bottom line. In terms of, full audit, canceling any unnecessary debts. My intention is not to add any more burden onto, not unnecessary debt, excuse me, canceling any unnecessary projects. My intention is to not add burden onto the taxpayers, but actually kind of level things out for the time being. I understand the cost of living currently is expensive and everybody is feeling the crunch at this point. One unique idea that I came up with was a toll system. I believe that this toll system is something that Jersey City can benefit from, and it could generate lots of money to help us to pretty much fund whatever other services that we have within the city. With this toll system, we have over 100,000 vehicles that are driving through Jersey City on a daily basis, and that's just passing traffic. And with this toll system, we wouldn't charge any Jersey City residents. And with this, It corrects a lot of issues such as people from out of state registering their vehicles incorrectly on purpose to avoid paying insurances. In addition to vehicles that are parked here overnight to where they're going to be charged just to drive throughout the city. I think that's one way to balance the budget. Thank you.
You will have 30 seconds to respond to this question. The broken 911 system is one of the more egregious issues that Jersey City residents have encountered. The public deserves to have a system that is able to pick up calls and dispatch without delay. If elected, do you commit to fixing the broken system as a priority by addressing and correcting it within the first month in office? And if so, how will you do that?
Yeah, great question. I've already mentioned this before. 911 sucks. I think there's two big things you have to think about. One, you get what you pay for. We pay some of the lowest wages in the entire state of New Jersey to the people who are first responders who are picking up those calls. And the second thing is culture, right? Right now, there's an extremely toxic culture within 911. You cannot get people to stay there. We are hiring and firing people extremely quickly. And that turnover rate can only be solved, I think, by solving both those problems in tandem, changing the culture from the top, but also making sure we're paying people a wage that allows them to actually sit there and answer some horrific calls.
So yes, I do intend to address the problem with the 911 system. And part of that issue is, again, the turnover. We have to make sure that we're paying people. You get, again, what you pay for in terms of the service that's provided. A lot of these civilians are working double shifts just to do the job, and that's not fair to them. So I would be most interested in looking at creative ways to bring more people into that particular unit that answer the calls, and just so that we can give the service and the safety that we deserve. Thank you.
Yes, that's a priority from day one. We do have to pay them a fair wage. They need more and ongoing training. You can notice that. But they live under a threat today of being privatized at any moment. And they've done that for several years because of Director Shea. So once Director Shea's gone, you change the morale, you look at the salaries, we need to keep them. But most importantly, you've got to be able to let them know and understand that as they need ongoing training, we will train them. And when we train them, we'll compensate them accordingly for having those additional skills.
You will have 30 seconds to answer this next question. What will you do to ensure that Jersey City residents are hired for the fire and police departments? It's been said that an open secret is out-of-town residents circumvent the residency requirements of the fire department and police department, whereas other towns such as Bayonne is able to prevent that. 30 seconds.
I'm gonna need more time for this, but it's no secret that this has been going on. It has happened to me within the police department, to where my first go round with the police department, they passed me up because they wanted to get to someone else. So I should have a lot more time on this job, and I've been a lifelong Jersey City resident. One way to correct that is just to make sure that the people who are in the background unit are not doing favors for those who are in the upper part of the department that are trying to get their relatives on, and just doing a thorough search into that particular person's background. Thank you.
So you have to make sure that it's done properly, that background checks are done properly, that they check whether they really live there. There has been issues, we know that, where they do that, but you got a bigger problem. You're gonna have trouble even getting police and firefighters with a $43,000 a year starting salary, and you have to live here. If you have a $43,000 starting salary, you can afford about $1,100 in rent. Does anybody have a large number of $1,100 rents available? Because if you do, I've got about 100 people that will reach out to you tomorrow. So you got to deal with the salaries. You can do the enforcement, but let's be realistic. If we don't address the salary issue, we're having trouble getting anybody to take those jobs. Used to be 10,000 people took a test, under 1,000 now.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Day hit the nail on the head here. Look, when I was the president of the school board, the minimum wage for teachers was $54,000. And I opened up the contracts to renegotiate in the middle of the pandemic. And the union pushed me to put all that money towards the top. And I fought hard and said, look, you are not gonna get any money unless it goes to the bottom. Today, the minimum wage of teachers went from $54,000 up to $61,000. That was in 2021. Today, after renegotiating the contract, the minimum wage for teachers is still $61,000. I say that because unions have a culture to say, look, you have to earn your stripes and get to the top. But they have to recognize that right now, the people at the bottom are really hurting. And they can't afford to be in New Jersey City unless we increase that minimum wage.
You will have 60 seconds to answer this next question. The Municipal Utilities Authority, the MUA, imposes water fees on city residents, and it's been criticized as a backdoor tax. Because while it's a cost borne by city residents, it's not included in the main city budget. How would you make water fees and the MUA in general more transparent and accountable to the public? And can you give 3 specific examples of actions you would take as mayor to help make it more transparent and accountable to the public?
Well, I mean, they're a public body, they have public meetings. As mayor, I'd make sure that those meetings are held at the right time when the most people can attend. If we need to make those available by Zoom, then we make them available by Zoom. We replace individuals that sit on those boards with people that are from the community, not just people that are politically appointed. So that's 2. But the most important point that you raised is those rates fill budget gaps. And we got to pay those. Get back to, you can't bond for operating expenses. That was a way of bonding for operating expenses. So we've got to look at where is there waste within there. The other thing we need to do is, are we getting all the money from a state and federal level? Obviously, federal is a little bit different right now, to do the work that we may be floating bonds for. So more accountability, have meetings available when people can go, put the right people on those boards, and then honestly audit them also. I'm guarantee you there's some wasting within the MUA itself.
I hate to give this answer, but I think it's actually too late. The city did a bond with the MUA where they gave him a 25-year contract with Viola. I think this was last year when they couldn't fill the budget deficit. They literally had the MUA give the money up front and in return guarantee them a 25-year contract. So sure, I can tell you as the mayor that I'm going to make sure the meetings are public and we know what's going on, but the reality is that ship has sailed. That contract's been signed for the next 25 years. They're going to increase your water rates to whatever they want, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say to that. I think they covered all the bases of it.
As Jersey City continues to grow with new residential towers and large-scale developments, the demand for fire protection and emergency response grows with it. How would you address the need for additional firehouses and resources to ensure adequate coverage across the city? In doing so, how would you reallocate funds within the municipal budget to responsibly expand the department? And would you support creating a public safety trust fund that requires developers to contribute toward fire and emergency infrastructure, helping to ease the tax burden on smaller property owners? You have 60 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to make a trust fund, but I definitely think you have to talk to developers about impact fees. Particularly when you have high rises that are going up, you need to make sure that these developers are paying impact fees that are directly associated with the cost that the city is going to bear for them. I think that's also how you talk about building new firehouses. The reality is, as a city, we cannot continue to bond for these services, but we can go to developer and say, look, if we're going to give you a tax break, it's going to come with a real give back to the community, which means you're going to build a firehouse. But everybody who's building over, I think, 10 stories needs to be talking about how they're paying these impact fees to make sure that our firefighters are properly trained and they're properly equipped. I also think it's really important that we have a separate police and a separate fire department. I'm going to give credit to Commissioner O'Day for being one of the first people to talk about this idea, but we need to make sure there's not one public safety director, but 2 separate directors, because right now, what you're having is the police department taking money away from the fire department. And the fire department feels like the sort of forgotten stepchild where there's all this money that they're supposed to be getting that they're not getting in terms of the resources that are necessary to make sure the city's protected.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Police department is underfunded. I can tell you that directly. But when it comes down to developers paying how they weigh, my intention is to make sure that they cover whatever expenses that's needed for them to build these buildings, and then also to make sure that the residents in that building and within the city are safe. So I don't have a problem with making sure that there's some type of funding that's incorporated in this development contract, you know, if that's what the community wants. I think that it's not a bad idea in terms of, you know, taxing them opposed to the homeowners and the property owners within the city. Thank you.
So the capital needs of the fire department have been neglected for 12 years. Everyone knows that. It's a shame. The director of public safety has just neglected them. I don't think you need a trust fund. We can capital bond or maybe use the improvement authority for some of the capital bonding, because the city's been downgraded twice in recent years, while the improvement authority has been able to maintain, and the county maintains a very high bond rating, which I'm proud to have been part of the government that does that. But also, some of these projects can utilize the Aspire tax credits, like Bayfront, where we definitely need a new firehouse, like Garfield Avenue, where we definitely need a new firehouse. And using the Aspire state tax credits, we can fund 40% of the net cost of building those firehouses with state tax dollars. So someone who knows and understands development, I'll make sure that we get those developers to use all the programs available to make it easier to fund the firehouses that we need. We also need one on Grand Street. That got left aside years ago, and the city's been in court. At the same time, that neighborhood's been suffering.
Would you be willing to pause new large-scale developments until the fire department's staffing, equipment, and response infrastructure catch up, even if that decision drew pushback from developers or campaign donors?
Absolutely. One of my main goals is to pause any unnecessary projects at this time, just because it's causing a burden everywhere. One, our infrastructure is suffering. We don't have enough manpower in terms of FD or PD just to respond to emergencies. For instance, a prime example is the December 10th. That should have shown everyone that we do not have enough resources, and we have to correct this issue before it gets worse.
So I'm not gonna pause any project that has affordable housing. So if there's a high-rise project that's gonna create affordable housing, no, I'm not gonna pause it. I'll figure out how we deal with the fire department issues and the infrastructure issues, because we desperately need affordable housing. We need, according to the RPA, 3,700 units. I have a plan that will get 2,800 units under construction, 1,400 completed in the 4 years. So if market developers can't come out up with a way to deal with it on their site, I don't have a problem pausing those. But projects that are gonna create real affordable housing we need in Jersey City, no, I am not going to support pausing them, because we desperately need it. Every day, every week, I have people begging for affordable housing, people being evicted from places they currently live in. So market developers, show me how you're gonna do that for your project. Otherwise, we'll pause you. Affordable housing, we gotta figure out another way to get it done, because those units are desperately needed.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the legal authority that we have to be able to pause buildings that are already supposed to be going up. But I think the best way to do this is you take all these building owners that are about to be, you know, breaking ground or building their units, and you say, look, if we don't fund our fire department, you know, we're gonna pause your projects. And you ask them to come up with the money. Because I think ultimately, the best thing that the city has is leverage when it comes to a bunch of these units. But I also don't want to commit to doing something that, like, I don't know that we have legal authority to do. Because the other side of it is we then get sued into oblivion and we lose more money. And now we have an even bigger problem when it comes to our budget. We actually had this issue when it comes to, you know, tax revaluation. We had the Hyatt Hotel in downtown Jersey City. You know, we were taxing it at a certain rate. They then sued us for the back taxes because they said during the pandemic, we didn't have any, you know, any people who were actually there. The city ended up having to bond $10 million. $10 million. And so, yes, you know, want to be as responsible as possible in terms of providing what the city needs, but also want to make sure on the legal side that we're covered and make sure that we don't cause a bigger problem in the long run.
Okay, we'll have 60 seconds for this next question. Multiple reports this year and in years past have criticized Jersey City's landlord-tenant office for backlogs, inconsistent rent control enforcement, and slower response times to tenant complaints. As mayor, what are 3 specific actions you would enact in your first 100 days to enforce rent control protections and prevent illegal rent hikes?
So in 1986, as a rookie city councilman, I adopted a very strong, effective rent control law. That's still basically the law today, but it's been pathetically enforced. First, illegal vacancy decontrol, building by building. If they're not registered, go after them, take them to court. And then take action to make them roll back rents because they did what they did illegally. Secondly, I'm the only one that's come out and said I will create and bring back rent receivership. There are landlords forcing tenants out of buildings so they can get a vacancy decontrol by doing a certain amount of work there. When they have buildings that have violations, we'll take over the management of the building, we'll put debt on the building, we'll renovate the building and make sure that we keep rent control there. So those are two. And third, just bring in people that have the skill set to enforce an existing law. And we need to have a rent control board meeting 3 times a week to cure a backlog, fine. And I want to bring back the housing court, because if we need a housing court to properly enforce the violations that are currently not being enforced against the landlords.
Yeah, the first one I think is housing court. I actually used to go to housing court when I was in law school defending tenants who were being evicted. The second thing is actually making sure we can publish all the places that are under rent control. Let's have an online database that anyone can check. Hey, is my unit under rent control or not? So I know what's happening in terms of what the rent hikes should be. And I think the third thing is actually taking on bad landlords, right? There are too many people and too many slumlords, frankly, who donate to political campaigns, who make sure that they fly under the radar. And I want to make sure that we hold them accountable, that we triple the fines on some of these landlords who are not providing heat, that are not providing clean drinking water, that are kicking people out. I know many of you have seen this story. There was a building in the Heights where a landlord literally put a dead fish inside one of the apartments and had maggots to be able to force the other tenants to move out. I mean, that is the condition right now where slumlords think they can just get away with that. And we're lucky the person there went to the press and highlighted the story. But, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? The fact that this is happening in one place and we're hearing about it means this is happening all across Jersey City. And when you walk around these neighborhoods and talk to people, they tell you story after story about slumlords.
So, that's one of our greatest calls. One of my greatest calls is the tenant landlord issues with these slumlords. One of the things that I would do is make sure that we close out any tickets. Anybody who's already been given a warning, find them daily, and then make sure that they're paying interest on that. Publicize these slumlords. What better way than to create a platform where the residents can go on and rate their managed property management. Once it hit a certain rating, it'll trigger a system to where, okay, we're going to get involved and now we're hands-on and there's no warnings or any, further warnings in regards to you taking care of this issue. And then after that, if we need to sue them, put a lien on the property, take back the property until they fix it.
You will have 60 seconds to answer this next question. Housing affordability is one of the top issues in this campaign. As the cost of living in Jersey City continues to rise, basic economics suggests that increasing housing supply can help stabilize prices, but the city faces the challenge of balancing development, affordability, and tax burden on the small property owners. Two strategies that are often discussed in relation with developers are: 1, mandating affordable housing units when granting tax abatements or other incentives, a policy sometimes seen as less business friendly, or 2, allowing market rate development without abatements or mandates, a strategy often viewed as more business friendly and potentially better at encouraging more building. Which of these approaches do you believe is the most effective way to create and preserve affordable housing in Jersey City when working with developers?
We have a very bold housing plan, and it's somewhere in the middle. We want to upzone 40% of Jersey City. If you live in a historic district, this wouldn't affect you, but a lot of Jersey City is zoned as R1 zoning. That's single family zoning. If we are being serious about the cost of living and the cost of rent, we need to upzone all these areas in Jersey City to go from single-story buildings to multi-story buildings. And the trade-off is basically, look, if you go from 1 unit to 4 units, You get 3 market rate units and you get 1 permanently affordable, deed restricted affordable unit. That is the only way to be serious about actually solving this problem. Because you need more market rate units, you need more workforce units, you need more middle income units, and you need more affordable units. The secret is out. Everybody wants to move to Jersey City. That's the reality. If we are being serious about how to address this problem, we need to build more housing at every single level across the board.
In terms of affordable means something very specific, and that goes according to the AMI. And a 1-bedroom in Jersey City is currently going for about $2,200. I don't know about you, I'm a police officer here, I can't afford that. So I think affordable housing is a covered term, and what we really need to look into is income-based housing with potentially a cap for it. One of my programs I want to introduce is the Freeman Housing Program, which is legacy housing, where we would take properties that are owned by Jersey City and sell them back to the community for $1, and in return, they will go through programs to revamp those houses. But of course, that would come with other stipulations. So again, affordable housing is a very broad term. I think people here in Jersey City are looking more for income-based or low-income housing in order to stay here. Thank you.
Jersey City desperately needs 30 to 60% area median income housing. Part of what I do in my day job is get affordable housing built. I've worked on over 750 units, from 6 units to 600 units. So as mayor, I'll know how to sit down with each developer and show them how to get it done. I'd like to see 20% in every project. And if you use the Aspire tax credits, I'm working currently on 2 projects that have it, and have helped Jersey City on both Bayfront and 703 North Avenue get them over the hurdle to get those credits. I think we can get most of them done that way. Can we make everyone do it? Probably not. Some may do a smaller percentage, but we desperately need affordable housing. If you let the market just deal with it, good luck. Greedy developers are just about making money. They're not going to do affordable housing out of the goodness of their heart. So I've got to lean more to getting them or compelling them to do it with a little bit of latitude, because if you give it to them and leave it up to them, the market is not going to work. It sounds good. It sounds really good, but people desperately need real affordable housing from $1,200, $1,100 to $1,500 per month.
What steps would, I'm sorry, you have 60 seconds for this next question. What steps would your administration take to pressure test the need for a property revaluation? And how would you communicate the need for a revaluation if it was in fact needed? And essentially, how would you help the public understand it and also understand the trade-offs of the property revaluation?
Well, the reevaluation is something that's necessary. We can't avoid doing that because this is why we're seeing a product of Jersey City now. What I would do to inform the residents is make sure that I'm running campaigns and ads and just utilizing the community just to get the word out, and then also to inform people on what to expect, because I think the biggest shocker is that most people have not gone through that eval and they're nervous about it. And I think we could take some of that nervousness away from them if we were to educate them on what it is and how it's going to affect them, and then where we can go from there.
So the reval is legally required to be done. And we should work within what the law requires us to do, not delay it. Because when you delay it, you're just going to create a different problem. So we need to let the public know. We need to work with the public. We need to make sure we really do a process to bring the best entity to do it. Because if you bring a flawed entity to do it, you get a flawed product. But delaying it, 2 things. One, you don't want to delay doing it. But secondly, you don't want to postpone dealing with the city budget, because you can just postpone, and then blame it all on the reval. And that would be a failed approach to dealing with it too. So you got to deal with your budget problems. You have to cooperate, bring in the most open, transparent process you can possibly have with the community, whether it's live, whether it's remote, whether it's on social media. Everybody needs to know, and everybody needs to become part of doing it. It's not easy. It's not popular, I lived through one when I first became a councilman, but it just has to get done.
Yeah, my understanding is we already need reval, in terms of what's happened in the city. So the revaluation process basically redistributes property tax burden all across the city. Because what's happening right now is there are certain neighborhoods that are subsidizing other neighborhoods. Some people are paying more taxes than they should, and some people are paying less taxes than they should. Now, the reason people don't like the reval is because traditionally, people who are wealthier get impacted the most, right? Their home value has gone up. And so they scream, say, oh, my property taxes went from $8,000 a month or $8,000 a year to $24,000 a year. That's horrible. But what happened is all across the city, there's people whose property taxes went down. And people don't talk about that, right? Because their property taxes went down $100, $200 a year. The reality is this is a system about fairness. And we need to make sure that the people of Jersey City know this is a zero-sum game. We're not increasing your taxes and increasing the taxes in all the cities, all across the neighborhoods. We are increasing some taxes and decreasing other taxes to be fair and equitable to what your home is worth. And I think if we talk about this in the light of fairness, that's the best way to approach it. But it is a difficult process, and the reality is one of us is going to have to govern that process.
All right, we're gonna start with the lightning round. This will be a yes, no answer, and we will alternate, Esther and I.
Do we get to explain too, or just yes?
I don't know if I've ever just answered yes, no to any question in my entire life. Anyone who knows me, so I don't. You have to grab the mic away from me.
Do we get a sentence?
What?
Do we get a sentence? Yes, you stand?
I mean, it depends what the question is. I mean, I think you had a question before that was kind of yes, no, and
People that want to, expand on any, but let us know, and we'll consider.
Great.
will you consult the audience and let them take a vote? All right.
Okay, so the first question is, do you support the idea of an appointed school board?
No. I don't need to explain.
No.
No.
Bill can just hold
Be like, when you guys are too young, it's like Phil Donahue, but that's really dating myself, so I'm not gonna use that. Oprah Winfrey, I guess.
Would you support changing the time of municipal elections back to the spring?
No.
No.
No. Just costs more money.
Would you support a referendum on bike lanes?
I'm sorry?
Would you support a referendum on bike lanes?
This was a referendum.
Well, ask public to vote on something.
Oh, yeah, public to vote on it. I'm sorry.
No, sorry if the question was unclear.
So it's all good. Yes, I would be for the public to vote on it.
Okay.
Yes, but only in very limited circumstances, like I know we have the issue with Ocean Avenue and MLK, but generally, government's there to make tough decisions. Not referendum on every item.
I would say my answer is no. I wouldn't support referendums. I think the way you do this is you don't spend a bunch of money asking people. You have an actual community
Yes
process.
or no?
The answer is no. I said no.
Okay.
But yeah,
Oh, I thought we said afterwards. Go ahead.
no. Yes, the answer is no. But again, it's because a ballot referendum costs money. It can cost up to $1 million to do that. Instead, why not go to the people and actually ask for input on what happens? Right? This Ocean Avenue, this MLK, instead of having this one way, you could have just talked to people and figured out nobody wanted that.
Makes sense.
If you have them in November, though, they don't cost money.
Okay, this next lightning round question will be a slight deviation. Instead of a yes or no, you either give us the answer or you don't. What is the amount of the 2025 municipal budget?
750. No,
I think it was 760 something, 761.
$1. Yeah, I would go in the middle, like about 758.
and the answer is?
$750 million.
750, oh, still got it.
Thank you. I just got lucky. Trust me. I heard it at one of the other debates. I'm gonna be honest.
So back to our regularly scheduled programming here. And do you want to ask the next question?
Sure. The Jersey City municipal budget has been passed relatively late in recent years, as sometimes as late as the fall. What are your thoughts on this? And would your mayoral administration have any plans to publish the budget earlier and loop in the public earlier so that they can understand this budgetary process?
How long?
Yeah, as
I'm sorry,
60 seconds.
let's make this 60 seconds.
Great.
Thanks.
As someone who has passed 4 budgets on the school board, I can tell you that if we don't pass our budget by the end of June, the county superintendent actually passes our budget for us. And so we have a real deadline. And so I want to make sure we have a real deadline for the municipal budget. But even more than that, when it comes to affordability, we should have a single tax strategy. The school board and the city make up the majority of your budget. They should be talking to one another about what's going on. When I had to pass a tax increase on the school board, I literally sat down with everyone in the city council and the mayor's office, and I gave them my budget and I said, this is what has to happen on the school district. What is something you think we should cut? And so the reality is you need to have that conversation. These two bodies cannot operate, without even thinking about what's going to happen to the taxpayer. Because what's happening now is the school taxes goes up and the city taxes go up. And then you look at your tax bill and you're like, how the hell did this happen? I can't afford any more tax increases.
So I would make sure that the budget is getting out in a timely fashion. June, July would be pretty much ideal, you figure it's the summer months. No one's surprised towards the end of the year as far as why their taxes are going up. We have to run the administration a lot more efficiently with transparency. So just making the public aware, like, hey, this is what we're doing. These are the numbers and your taxes may or may not be going up.
So in the county, we always adopt it by June, similar to the Board of Ed. It makes sense. Sometimes we wait till June because we rely on knowing what the state aid is going to be or what different things are going to be. So in my world, we can introduce the budget even earlier, by sometime in February. It may not be the budget we introduce to present to the state, but it could be a budget for discussion, a budget to have public hearings on, a budget to get input from people. It'll at least show what we see our expenditures at. And then is there ways to cut? And are there ways to bring new revenue in? So what happened this year, when you're in September adopting a budget, is ridiculous. How does anybody cut? How does the city council make any cuts in the month of September when you've already spent 75% of the money? It's just ridiculous. So even if it's not a formal budget, start the process by the middle or end of the first quarter, and then wait for all the revenue items we need to be able to really put the one that we submit to the DCA.
Can we talk about why the city did it so late too? You can mention that. So just very briefly, part of the reason the city does it so late this year is because they were waiting on land sales, right? They're waiting for one-time revenue. And so they can't even pass the budget until they can sell off the piece of land that they're selling to the developer for the price that they know. And then they can say, oh, now we can budget it in. And so again, when you rely on one-time revenues, it ruins the process for all of us.
And again, so the city reliance on one-time land sales is wrong. And I gotta tell you, as mayor, land sales should be spread out. Those revenues need to be spread out of multiple years. That's good budgeting. And that's something that we would do. But year after year, they're waiting for this revenue, they're waiting for that revenue, they're waiting to sell or a 25-year lease another year to get that approved by the state. Delaying the inevitable always makes the inevitable cost even more.
So if I can ask a follow-up question, 30 seconds, what are the top 3 challenges that you think you're going to need to grapple with as it relates to the city budget when you take office? Top 3 challenges.
So the first challenge is the gap. It's $100 million. We don't have $100 million of recurring revenue sitting somewhere. We can get a lot of that revenue over time, but how do we get from today to that? That's why you got to do budgets over 4 years. So that's the first biggest problem. The second problem is something that we kind of talk about, but there are places that we have to pay more. Police salaries, fire salaries, 911 salaries. Those salaries are so low, we can't attract people. So at the same time, there are costs that we know that are going to go up that we're going to have to deal with. So those I think are the first 2. Lay it out over time. And then the third one is creating recurring revenue. And if you stop development, you stop some of that revenue that's coming in. So dealing with one-time revenues, dealing with the projections of what might happen, which is why I need 4 years, because then I can deal year by year. Where can I make revenue? Where can I make cuts? You can't cut people all at once. You've got to do that and spread that over time too.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem we're facing is that the health insurance costs that we're paying are astronomical. Every single year, I mean, this year, we're looking at a 70% increase in premiums. So yeah, our some public servants pay part of that, but the rest of that falls on the taxpayer. If we didn't increase anything else in the budget, and you just factor the increase for health insurance, your taxes are all going up by 1%. I mean, this is a reality you have to deal with. And so I think that's the first issue we're dealing with is health insurance. The second issue, like Bill mentioned, at the bottom, we do not pay enough to retain our best talent. And I think the third thing we're facing is that there are too many sticky contracts. There are people who have paid people in office to make sure they keep their contracts. And I know as someone who's running for office, that these same companies come to us and say, hey, if I donate to you, will you make sure that I keep a contract in the city? And that's why we reject any contract, any donation from a city contractor or a city vendor.
I would say audits, just to see where the money is going and then just figure out ways how to cut some of that excess spending and waste. In terms of generating money, again, my toll system is something that I'm really big on. In addition to an electric bus line, we can use that to generate money to go towards the bottom line and then just to go towards any additional projects that we plan to do within the city to where it's not causing a ripple effect onto the already the budget that we currently have. Thank you.
So you will have 90 seconds to answer this next question. It's about the West Side. Bayfront is the redevelopment project, which is approximately 100 acres on the west side along the Hackensack River. Jersey City acquired the property from Honeywell in 2018. The city council approved a $170 million bond in 2018 to acquire and advance the project. This was the first of other bonds that were projected to be issued by the city. Additionally, a 30-year pilot was approved by council in 2023. Bayfront is planned to build 8,000 residential units, of which 35% is supposed to be earmarked for affordable housing. If you have ever been on Route 440 stuck in traffic or tried crossing town on Communipot Avenue, a reasonable question is, how will the population density of Bayfront impact the west side? Aside from traffic issues, other questions that arise are the strain on our reservoir and sewage system. Will we have enough water available? Emergency healthcare needs. There's no hospital on the west side. How would an ambulance get across the city? And does this put a strain on the existing hospital? And what about a school and the additional cost of public safety? If elected, how will you address the cost to taxpayers for additional projected bonding on the issue of traffic, water, public safety, school, and emergency health needs? You each have 90 seconds.
It's gonna be like 90 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Each 2 minutes to do that. Big question. And you can each have 2 minutes to do that.
So, yeah, so of course, naturally, when you have a project such as that coming up, you're gonna bring in more people to the area. And I know that the idea of bringing in these buildings, they're thinking that people aren't coming with their cars when they actually are. Again, my toll system that I have in place is meant to deter some of the passing through traffic here in Jersey City and then be able to recoup some of that money to go towards developing and, you know, our infrastructure and just rebuilding that. I know that 440 is not necessarily a Jersey City roadway. That's actually a state highway. So that's something that we would have to collaborate with the state on figuring out what would be the best way to go about relieving some of the congestion there, whether it's like banning the trucks that come through there or just creating a different route for traffic to be able to pass through without overtaxing or overloading the west side area. Again, we already have a congestion issue, and it's something that's gonna get progressively worse if we do not take the time to just come up with a strategy and a creative plan. In terms of police and fire, again, that goes towards money. You know, we have to have the money to pay FD and PD in order to expand them. I want the capacity of the police department to reflect that of the community. So as of right now, we should have 800 people in our department. I don't know if those numbers are true. However, I would like to get the police department at least up to a 1,500 man department. For the simple fact is, most of the police officers that you see on the street, it's probably like a little less than like 300 officers that you see within patrol. And again, we're already having issues with the response system and us getting the services that we need and pay for.
So I'll take as many as I can in 2 minutes. The school, there'll be a school there. I've been working with the city, the JCRA, and the developer to make sure that they get a school, if not in the first phase, the second phase. By doing it under an Aspire state tax credit, 45% of the cost of that school will be borne by state tax credits. So we're saving a lot of dollars. Other infrastructure costs within the site, we should also try to bear within the tax credits, because that will be able to be paid by them. As it relates to the density there, we must extend the light rail to the site. And we must work and make it a priority for whoever the governor of the state of New Jersey is to extend the light rail to that site. If not, we're gonna have a bigger problem, because 440 is already a parking lot during many, many hours of the day. Now, I'm gonna ask that whoever the mayor, if we just do one free bus line, maybe we started at Bayfront, because we gotta get them to Journal Square or wherever. As it relates to hospitals, I would be curious to see if you took a vehicle, an ambulance today, and drove to the Jersey City Medical Center and Bayonne Hospital, which one you could get to faster. I think you get to Bayonne a lot faster, so I think we've got to analyze and look at that. But when it comes to hospitals, we're fighting to keep Christ Hospital open. They're laying off massive amount of people, so healthcare and keeping health facilities open at a point in time when they're losing money is something that's a bigger challenge. But the last point of it, we must build, and we need state money to do it because it is a state road, the flyover that we've talked about forever that takes us onto Route 1 and 9 South. They've talked about it forever. If you see why it backs up so much on 440 heading north, it's because everyone that makes that left turn to get on, mostly which is truck traffic from the port in Bayonne.
Yeah, look, I think when it comes to Bayfront, the thing that all of us in this room need to recognize is that the state has not been providing us enough funding in a whole host of different reasons. The Aspire program that Commissioner O'Day talks about, Aspire has been used very heavily in Patterson and in Newark to help build up these cities. Aspire is very rarely given to Jersey City. We were lucky to actually get it as part of Bayfront. We're lucky to get it in Jersey City. The state has this money. They don't give it to Jersey City. When it comes to expanding the light rail, this is another thing, right? We're not running for governor, but like we need the governor to pay attention to us. When it comes to congestion, you know, Commissioner O'Day talks about one of my proposals is to build a fast and free city-run bus system without increasing your taxes. There's already $7.8 million being allocated towards VIA. We're going to decrease that and use that towards a bus system because fixed route transit works better. But all of these things, I need everyone in this room to recognize. I don't care if you vote for me, for Commissioner O'Day, for Officer Freeman, or for anyone else. You need to vote. The people in Jersey City have been screwed over time and time again because our turnout is too low. The governor of New Jersey does not look at Jersey City and say, hey, this is a place where there are tons of votes. They say, look, these people don't come out, so I'm going to direct my money elsewhere. It is no secret Middlesex County is running Mikey Sherrill's campaign. It's because Middlesex County has done a great job at organizing people and getting them out to vote. If you want a light rail, if you want more state funding, if you want our schools to be fully funded, again, I don't care who you vote for. Vote. Get your friends to vote. Because if the people of Jersey City do not start voting at the rate that's necessary, we are not going to get help from the state government. They have abandoned us over the last couple of years. I want you to think about the implications of this voting. Hudson County used to control the Speaker of the Assembly. We no longer do. When it comes to the state, again, they used to look at Hudson County as a place that they had to come to. They don't look at Jersey City. They go to Union City, but they don't come here. Why? It's because we don't vote. And so there are so many things we need to do for Bayfront. Most of those things require state money. If you want that state money, Everyone here needs to vote and tell their friends to vote. Again, I don't care who it's for, but you need to go out and vote.
I'd like to pivot back to education. People often point to test scores as indicators of school success, but research shows that one of the strongest predictors of how well students perform on those tests is poverty. Rutgers researchers, in fact, found that more than half of the test score differences can be explained by economic conditions. That's from a report from about 2016 out of Rutgers. Given that more than 15% of Jersey City residents live below the poverty line, according to the US Census, what specific policies or partnerships would your administration pursue to reduce the impact of poverty on student achievement in our schools?
So when I started the campaign, I talked about the need to have youth development centers throughout the city. Those youth development centers would be areas that our young people, especially in areas that have high poverty rates, can get homework help, can get tutoring, can get preparation for the PSATs, the SATs. You know, many years ago, I got the county to start a program. So kids in this city and this county who live in poverty were able to get an SAT prep class. Because it bothered me, because I was a very good student at St. Peter's Prep. But a couple of guys got higher SAT scores because those families were able to send them to Princeton Review. But all joking aside, we need to have those programs. And I want the youth development centers right away. We may not build them, but we can put them in our schools. And we can get the Jersey City PAL to run one. And we can get Blessed to run one. And we can get other groups to run. So take those centers. I think it starts there. After school program, weekend programs, and free summer camps that we used to have. We still have them in Lincoln Park, because I made sure we have them, but free summer camps for those kids that include enrichment and education programs also.
So the childhood poverty rate in Jersey City is actually 24%. 1 in every 10 children in Jersey City are homeless. I want you to think about that for a second. People talk about our school children, they say, oh, they're spending all this money, but like, where are the outcomes? You do not realize that there are so many children that do not know where they're going home that night. And so the first thing we need to do is address the wraparound services, right? Like Commissioner O'Day, my family wasn't wealthy enough to send me to Princeton Review, but I was very lucky, to have structured programming that allowed me to get really good scores on my SATs. And the reason I served on the school board was because I saw so many of my friends being left behind. But we need to invest in our young people across the board. The number one way to do that is to get the corporations here to pay their fair share. When you look at Newark, Prudential Foundation, MCG Alito Foundation, Victoria Foundation, the Devils have a foundation, Panasonic has a foundation, Audible has a foundation. Name one foundation for me here in Jersey City. Despite the fact that we have all these companies, none of them are giving back. One of the easiest ways to get them involved is to involve them with our young people. And so I think we build a Department of Philanthropy. We take all these people together, let government be a conduit to bring these people together and to say, hey, invest in our young people, invest in our outcomes, and provide them with real opportunities to make a difference.
It is all of our duty to support the youth here. No youth should be experiencing poverty. It is our duty as a community to support them. And some ways I would do that is by collaborating with what we already have. We have the libraries, we have the schools, we have the organizations such as PAL program and the Bless program and many of the other youth programs that are here, just having them being more active, making sure that we're supporting those organizations so that they can continue the work in which they're doing, provide grant funding, grant writing services, in addition to making sure that they have food for the kids, because some of these kids do not eat. They eat when they get in school and then they don't get to eat again because they just don't have the means at home. So I would be most interested in supporting the organizations, using what we already have here, and then building also centers in each ward so that these children can go and get after school mentorships in addition to tutoring. Thank you.
This next question, you will have 60 seconds to respond. Our nation and our state is divided politically, and securing funding or support for Jersey City may require cooperation across party lines and with officials who may hold different views. As mayor, how would you work with leaders at the county, state, and federal levels, regardless of party, to ensure Jersey City gets the resources and attention it deserves?
I think this is a great reminder that all of you need to vote, because the number one thing politicians respect are people who are voting and voters. But more importantly, look, my number one priority is the people of Jersey City. And when it comes to anybody in the government, including Donald Trump, I will work with him when it comes to lowering the cost of living for the people here in Jersey City. Now, at the same time, I'm going to be very firm on our values as a city, that we are not a city that allows children to be separated from their parents. We do not tear families apart. But what that means is, look, when it comes to something that can benefit the people of Jersey City, I will go after it relentlessly. When I was on the school board, I actually worked with the White House to send a letter, right, along with New Jersey Together, to the Secretary of Education, sent a letter to the governor of New Jersey to help us to restore funding. I mean, these are the kinds of things that you need to do. I worked with the Intergovernmental Affairs at the White House to say, look, the people of Jersey are being screwed over. I don't care that the governor is of my same party. I need to make sure that the people of Jersey City are getting what they deserve. And I will do that every step of the way, and I will work with anyone in government when it comes to supporting the people of Jersey City and our values, and I will fight every step of the way when they oppose them.
I would feel the same way. Collaborate with, collaborate. It's okay to have different points of views as long as it's not being biased or oppressive to a group of people. You know, my agenda is to advocate for the people of Jersey City. And again, we don't get what we need because we don't get out there and vote. So that's a step in the right direction. So just being open and collaborating with those who have different points of views. It's okay that we don't necessarily have the same point of view. It's all about the people at the end of the day for me, Jersey City first.
So when I started as a councilman, there was a governor who was Republican. His name was Tom Kane. And I met with him, and we got $20 million to clean up the PJP landfill that burned for years and years. So I know how to work across the aisle when I need to work across the aisle. But I also know how to stand up when we need to stand up. And quite frankly, with the federal government, we need to stand up today. SNAP, food stamps, there will be none on November 1st. Do you realize the lines we're gonna have around our food pantries? We've got to right now stand up and come together just to address that issue. On the county level, I'm pretty confident I could work with the folks in the county. I've worked with them for the last 27 years, even though I have never had a problem standing up to them on the issue like ICE and speaking out against things that I think are important. So I'll work across the aisle, but I'm not going to be afraid to stand up, speak out, and fight against whether it's Trump or anyone else, no matter what party. It could be someone in my own party, if they're not doing what's right by the people of Jersey City.
This next question, you'll have 60 seconds. This is also going to touch on education. The city's 1% payroll tax was created to generate revenue for the schools, but there have been concerns about how it's being administered and if all monies are being proactively collected for the schools. As mayor, how would you ensure that this tax is collected fairly and efficiently, and then also guarantee the revenue truly benefits the schools effectively by getting to the schools, rather than, not being distributed to the schools in a timely fashion?
Well, we have to make sure that the money is being spent on what it's supposed to be spent on. So if we're collecting money for the schools, we can't be using that money elsewhere for other projects. So one of my main things is to make sure that the department heads are doing pretty much their job. So if there's money that's put aside for the public schools, I would make sure that that money is allocated to the public schools in a timely fashion. There's no other way around it, just outside of just making sure that they're doing their jobs and being held accountable. And then just transparency, making sure that this information is readily available online through a portal that actually works, to where people can go on and just see where the money is going and when it's going to be released. Thank you.
So a year and a half ago, I called out a developer because they didn't make their payroll tax. It was a project on Grant Street. And at the time, I proposed the following. No construction project should get a certificate of occupancy until they determine that they've made a reasonable payment of payroll tax. That could be by reviewing their payroll, but even reviewing the permit that they file, because that permit lays out what the project's gonna cost. And basically, 60% is labor, 40% is materials. So that should be done day one. I need the state to pass the law, but I would push to make that happen. Secondly, work with the city and Board of Ed to let the city spend what's reasonable administratively to collect all the money. Because right now, the city's at a disadvantage because they're spending money and may not get all the administrative costs back. I don't think the Board of Ed would have any problem with doing that, especially when we work in partnership. And then third and lastly, yes, get them their money right away. The city's been playing games with money, they've been holding money back, and that doesn't help anyone. It certainly doesn't help our schools.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question. I mean, there were headlines about me sparring with the mayor about the payroll tax, sending him letter after letter to certify our payroll tax, which he wouldn't do. And let's talk about the history of this payroll tax for a second. The payroll tax was passed because when the governor announced that they were going to cut our money in S2 in 2017, they wanted to give us a vehicle to fund some of that gap. Originally, they said it was going to be a $100 million cut. And they said the payroll tax would cover $85 million of it. And they said, look, they're going to cover the $85 million, and over time, you're only going to have a $15 million cut. Now what happened? Instead of a $100 million cut, it was a $250 million cut. And that payroll tax never got to the number it needed because the city didn't enforce it. So despite the fact that the Board of Ed kept asking and asking for recertifications, the city wouldn't do it. And the city feels like they have no incentive to collect the tax. So I can guarantee you, as the mayor, I will make sure that tax is collected. And I will make sure that I stand up and fight against the governor when we know we made a mistake. Our legislators, I remember being on the school board, our legislators were misled. They thought we were going to get a $100 million cut. That's part of the reason they didn't fight so hard. Once they realized what the cut was, they should have immediately stopped the session in Trenton, bust us all down there, and said, look, we are not going to continue until we get the money back from Jersey City. Instead, we rolled over and all of us suffered.
This will be the final question of the evening, and you will have 60 seconds. Did you answer?
Yeah.
Everybody answered, okay. And you'll have 60 seconds to respond. Residents often feel that once elected, representatives fail to keep their campaign promises or follow the expressed will of the public on issues that arise. If elected, other than voting you out of office in 4 years, how should residents hold you to your promises while you are in office to ensure that your promises are kept to the public?
Well, the first thing you should do is, before you vote, look at those of us that have held elected office and look as to when, if ever, we've gone against those things we've promised. And I'm willing to stand up and be judged by that. Being available to the public, I guess, is another way during it. Holding more public meetings, community meetings, being accessible. You know, one thing I'm gonna do, which will make it easier if you've got a problem with me, is I'm moving City Hall 3 days a week to the hub on MLK. So if you wanna come there, instead of going to City Hall, you'll be able to see me. Now, kind of, I like doing it because I live on Williams, near Westside, so I'm gonna be able to walk there. By the way, you'll be able to stop me on the street and yell at me if I didn't do something I was supposed to. And anyone who knows me in this room, you've seen me in Lincoln Park. I walk the neighborhoods, I shop on the West Side Avenue at that supermarket. I'm always out there. I'm willing to take the hits when I need to take them. And I'm always there to be available to help people, because I think that's what a mayor, a councilman, a school board member, that's what we're elected to do.
Yeah, I think to the point Commissioner O'Day made, look, we are running on a mandate of ideas. We are running to build more housing and more affordable housing. We are running to build a fast and free bus system. We are running to take no money from city contractors, city vendors. If you see me in office and in 4 years, I don't deliver any buses, or I don't deliver, or I start taking money from these contractors and vendors, or I don't build any more housing, you should call me out. Look, I want to be accountable to everyone in this room, whether that's through community meetings, whether that's through town halls, whether it's through open office hours, or literally just go on the internet and flood my comments, right? I have a very open social media page. I don't delete comments. I don't block people. People are allowed to express their opinions. And if you are frustrated with me, let me know so that I can deal with it and I can address it. Because I want to make sure this is a city that feels accessible, that you feel like your mayor is a part of your community, that you feel like your mayor is a part of your neighborhood. Not that I'm, sort of isolated from you. Even when I was on the school board, time and time again, I would go to the different schools and I would visit and I would ask people, what are the problems you're facing? To make sure that I was abreast of like what was going on. And I want to make sure I keep that same energy when I'm the mayor of Jersey City, so you can come to me and you can yell at me about all your problems.
So you're not gonna block me? I don't plan on going anywhere. I've lived in Jersey City my whole life, and one thing that I take pride in is doing exactly what I say that I'm going to do. Anyone who knows me, friends, family, will tell you that whatever it is that I put my mind to, or whatever it is that I say, it's going to happen. It may take some time, but I intend to bring forth every idea that I have within the city, whether I'm mayor or not, because I'm pretty sure that any one of my running mates that are up here would be more than happy to help me to bring forth some of these ideas and just to hold me accountable. I'm available, you see me not doing what it is that I'm supposed to do. I have no problem being addressed or corrected, respectfully. And again, I don't plan on blocking any of you on my social media. You're free to speak your mind, and I'm more than happy to have that one-on-one conversation with you. Thank you.
So that was the last question. Thank you very much for a very civil and informing debate. We did want to leave 90 seconds for each of you to have a closing statement to end the night.
So first, I want to thank you for having this forum. It's good to be home. It's good to be in the Gallo Center because it's kind of like a second home to me. So if given the opportunity to be the mayor of Jersey City, you have a 24/7 mayor. I've been someone that's always available. I'm someone that's always accessible. I'm not afraid of a fight, but I like to work within the system whenever possible. And I think that we have very, very, very tough problems. And certain things that I say that I'll do that I live up to. I haven't taken a salary increase since 2009, and I got the paperwork here to prove it. Though folks that didn't have the courage to come here tonight may put out lies that say that's not true. And as mayor, the first thing I'm gonna do is cut my salary by 20%. Because our budget situation is so tough that you've got to set the example at the top. And I'm gonna ask the city council to cut their budget 20% too. Not only their salaries, but their total budget. This is my neighborhood, this is my city. I've lived here my whole life. I love Jersey City. It's meant so much to me. I've watched it change. I've watched so many changes. I was joking before, and I'm gonna give a little shout out that when I was a commissioner for a long time, we didn't have a cricket pitch in this park. But then Musab said, hey, we need a cricket pitch in Lincoln Park. So we got a cricket pitch in Lincoln Park. So other people have great ideas. We used to not have free movies in the county parks. But then Esther Whitney came to a commissioner meeting, and now we have free movies in the summer parks. So as your mayor, I'm gonna be somebody that works with you, available with you, and always there to help you. Thank you.
I just want to thank you all just for the opportunity to just be before you tonight. I don't take anything for granted. For those of you who don't know, again, my name is Christina Freeman, and I've served within this city for 6 years, but I've been in this city all my life. Jersey City is my home. As mayor, I intend to bring forth every idea in which I presented before you tonight: affordable housing, youth programs, electric buses, a toll system, and most of all, supporting our youth because they are the future. I just want to shout out my youth again tonight who are in the back of the room. If you can just give them a round of applause for being out here tonight, we don't want to take that lightly. But again,
Don't forget the little guy in front of you.
and my little guy that's here, he's been at every forum, Mason. But I'm a real person. I'm out here with you. I'm the one that's responding to the emergencies. I see every resident on their best day and on their worst days. And as your mayor, I intend to still do the same for you if given the opportunity. Thank you.
Donald Trump only has one quote about Jersey City. And he says, I remember watching in Jersey City, New Jersey, where thousands of people were celebrating on the rooftops during 9/11. 2 years after that quote, you elected me as the first Muslim in this city's history. And I never forgot that. My mom, who's in the audience tonight, shared a story with me this year that she hadn't shared with me for 24 years. She said to me a year after 9/11, she was walking to get groceries and a group of boys jumped her. And she remembered the exact spot where it happened. And she said, for years, I couldn't walk outside my house because I felt traumatized. But the reason she shared that story with me was not because of fear, but because of joy. Because she said, Musab, I can go back to that exact same spot where that happened to me. And there are people who run up to me, who say, I am so excited to vote for your son as the next mayor of this city. And I think about that story because it's a story where we could have chosen to leave Jersey City, to say, look, we are not welcome here. But instead, my family chose service. My mom is a union teacher. My dad is a union postal worker. They taught me the importance of service. And so this is a campaign allowing the people of Jersey City to dream bigger, especially our young people. It's the dream that you can immigrate to this country. You can go to the public schools. You can be admitted to the most prestigious institutions of learning in this entire country. And you can come back and serve as their mayor. And so I hope you help me in helping our people dream bigger about what is possible in the city of Jersey City. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, candidates, for coming this evening. Give a big round of applause for all of our. Wish you all a lot of luck on election day, and as they all said, please vote and tell everyone you know to vote. It is important and it does get us recognition on other levels of this state that actually determine what comes back here to Jersey City. So please do that. If anything you say to anybody else, it's about voting. Thank you, and thank you all.
We're gonna get a picture with them. Yes. Get a